Hi guys, this is Connie, and there are only like 3 or 4 pages to the next 2 chapters, so let's get into it. Connie reads 8 Keys, Chapter 6, I Make It to School. The next day, I made it to the bus on time. Amanda got to our locker first, like every morning, because she doesn't take the bus. Where's your boyfriend? He's not my boyfriend. I reached up to put my lunch on the top shelf. Amanda stopped me. My lunch is up there. Put yours in the main section. She took my bag and tossed it onto the pile of books below. I guess I don't need these. She dropped the rest of her books into the locker, squishing my lunch. I was still staring at her when her crew of 3 girls showed up. I had learned their names were Kate, Lindsay, and Caroline, and all 4 of them came from the same elementary school. Amanda never let anyone, her friends, or Franklin, see the lunch smashing. Kate and Lindsay were careful not to make eye contact with me. Caroline glanced at me, but then looked away. The bell rang. The 4 girls started to walk to class. From down the hall, Franklin called, "Elise, come on!" He was running through kids with his arms full of books. Then he slammed into an 8th grader and toppled over backwards. Amanda, Kate, and Lindsay laughed hysterically. Caroline caught my eye again. Franklin didn't notice a whole bunch of people were laughing at him. I had 2 choices. I could help Franklin up and get teased and laughed at again, or ignore him. I left Franklin fumbling for books, trying to keep his balance with his backpack on, and followed Caroline to class. Franklin showed up late, pink and out of breath, and slipped into the seat next to me. He always comes right back to me, like a puppy dog friend. Mrs. Wakefield had corrected our paragraphs from the day before. "Caroline, will you read yours?" Caroline walked to the front and read in a clear voice. It was about the ocean. It had full sentences, but sounded like poetry. When Caroline sat back down, Mrs. Wakefield commented on how she really liked her descriptions. How you could feel the wet sand under your toes and hear the waves rolling in. Then she returned everyone else's paper. My paper wasn't smooth like Caroline's. It had jaggedy edges because I had ripped it out of a notebook, and there was a tear in the paper where I had erased too hard. Mrs. Wakefield had written only a check on it. Amanda, Kate, and Lindsay didn't seem to like that Caroline got attention for her essay. They didn't say good job or anything. I peeked sideways. Caroline was looking down at her paper. Her ears were pink underneath her shiny shoulder-length hair, which was pulled back with a headband. "I liked your paragraph," I whispered. She produced a tiny smile. Mrs. Wakefield started talking about nouns and verbs and nothing, and I doodled over the check mark on my paper with a red pen until the check mark was an A. An A+. After school, we went to Leonard's, and Franklin let me go talk to Leonard by myself for a few minutes, as usual. I breathed in deeply to soak in that great hardware store smell before I found him shelving stuff. "Hi, Leonard." "Hey, Elise. How's school? You seem to have barely any time to come by the old shop anymore." I shrugged. "It's busy." "And awful," I added in my head. "What's that?" "What's what?" "The part after busy." "I didn't say anything." "But you thought something after busy." "It's awful. That's what I thought. School is still awful." "Want to tell me about it?" "No, I don't." It wasn't so much that I didn't want to tell Leonard, but I saw no reason to bring Amanda into the store. "You know what we used to do, your dad and me?" "What, go up to the lake?" "That's right, go up to the old lake." Oh, it says go up to the old lake? That's right, go up to the old lake. Leonard was always talking about how he and Dad did that. Get away from life for a while. Talk about things. Nothing a trip there couldn't solve. Everything always seemed a bit better when we came back. I'd heard about the old lake a million gazillion times. Leonard really seemed to like to talk about it. So I always let him, but this time, him mentioning a place where you took your troubles to talk about them It seemed like he had been reading my mind again. Sounds like a great place. It was. Then he changed the subject. Ready to turn a year older? So ready. You're coming, right? To my birthday? Of course. I wouldn't miss the biggest Sloppy Joe fest of the year. Okay, good. And don't forget, Leonard said, just because you're growing up doesn't mean you don't have to come by to visit your old friend. I won't forget. On Saturday afternoon, I headed into the kitchen. Aunt Bessie didn't have a job, so that made this our time. On the counter were a butternut squash, a banana, an avocado, and a bag of apples. I didn't think they went together. What are we making? Baby food. Like for Ava? Oh, the page won't work. Yes, isn't it exciting? I thought she didn't eat food, just milk. Well, the doctor said she still needs all that milk, but that she can be introduced to certain foods now. We're making her lots of things because we aren't sure what she likes best. She tried most of them before, but the avocado will be new today. How much can she eat? A spoonful. A spoonful? All this for a spoonful? Well, she doesn't even know what she likes. So we'll let her taste things. She was talking about Ava like she was a person with opinions, not a blob. Here, why don't you peel all the apples? We'll make some into applesauce. I'll get to work on the squash. Cooking time with Bessie was supposed to be about me and her, not about a baby who happened to live in our house. I didn't talk as I peeled the apple skins into a container. The applesauce took a long time to make, and a lot of arm strength to turn the crank of the strainer over and over and over with my left hand. The avocado and the banana got mashed up at the last minute, because they didn't need to be cooked. Life with Annie and Ava had been pretty peaceful so far. Their room was on the first floor, like mine, but on the opposite side of the house, so I didn't hear Ava crying too much. And I was at school for most of the day. Ava usually sat on the floor in her baby carrier seat at dinner, and often she just fell asleep because it must be boring to watch people eat. She might not even have been able to see us from down there. Franklin looked up how far babies can see and told me that most babies don't develop full visual capabilities until about 8 months. Ava had a couple months to go. Annie and Ava were sharing my bathroom, and it had a lot of new things in it, like a little yellow bathtub stored in the big bathtub that I had to move out whenever I wanted to take a shower. And sometimes Ava's tiny bibs or clothes hung on the towel racks. Luckily, the changing table was nowhere near me or my room. Mostly, I just didn't pay attention to Ava. Everything she did seemed cute to the others, and every little cry was something to take care of. Finally, the food was ready. Annie brought Ava in, sat her up in a high chair, and buttoned a soft bib around her neck. "Are you ready?" Annie asked in a sweet, tiny, just-for-Ava voice. "Are you ready to try some food?" Ava smiled a gurgly smile. We pulled up 3 chairs around the high chair. We each had a little container of food and a plastic-coated baby spoon. "Want to go first?" Annie invited me. "She's your baby," I said. Aunt Bessie nodded. Annie took a tiny spoonful of mashed squash and pressed it to Ava's lips. Ava looked confused, stuck her tongue out, and pushed the food away. We laughed, which made Ava widen her eyes and smile back, wondering what clever things she'd done now. The story was the same for the applesauce, banana. Then it was my turn with the avocado. A little flutter of nerves ran through my belly when I lifted the spoon for her. I tried to be extra gentle as I pushed the spoon past her lips and set the little plop of avocado there. I realized it was the closest contact I'd had with Ava. We were only as far apart as a mini made-for-baby spoon. The avocado went down better. At least, less of it came back out. She seemed to be thinking about it. "Oh, I think she liked that best so far," Annie said. Try it again. I fed Ava another spoon tip of avocado. By the end, it seemed that she liked banana best. But who really knew? She was a baby. When the feeding was over, Ava hadn't eaten more than the spoonful Aunt Bessie had predicted. But she was covered in food. "The bib is all wrecked," I said as Annie wiped Ava's face with it. "We'll wash it. It may stain, but that's what it's for. Then one day we'll toss it away," Aunt Bessie said. "Sometimes I think I'll become very attached to these baby things and try and keep them all," Annie admitted. "It's okay to keep some things. I have a lot of Elise's things upstairs in the attic." It was true. We took them out and looked at them sometimes. But not lately, though. Not since Little Miss Baby Pants arrived. I wondered if Aunt Bessie was going to offer to give my things to Ava, but she didn't. Maybe old things like that are off limits, like stuff in museums. "Maybe you can show me sometime, Elise," Annie said, lifting Ava out of the high chair. "Yeah, maybe." Annie took Ava to give her a bath. There was avocado stuck in her fluffy hair. "Should we make our dinner?" I asked Aunt Bessie. Maybe now would be our time together. "It's already made. I've had pork in the oven this whole time, and you made the applesauce." I was setting the table when Annie came back with Ava, squeaky clean and wearing pajamas. Not that daytime baby clothes and nighttime baby clothes are all that different. The PJs have feet on them, and the daytime clothes don't. Annie buckled Ava into her carrier on the floor as Uncle Hugh came in. "I've got a surprise for you, Annie. Cricket, will you come hold the door?" I held the screen door wide open while Uncle Hugh carried in a large piece of beautiful blue furniture and set it on its rockers on the tile floor. My mouth dropped open. "There," he said proudly. "I thought it would be nice for you and Ava. It's good and sturdy, and we can put it right in your room." "Oh, thank you!" Annie hugged Uncle Hugh. He laughed as he patted her back. I shut the door. Uncle Hugh hadn't known I'd wanted the chair. I never said anything about it. I knew it wasn't fair for me to be mad, but I was. And that's the end of Chapter 6. I'm going to come right back and do Chapter 7 because this was a short chapter. Thank you, Lord. Be careful with that and enjoy, please, and thank you.